dive right in with a huge question. What exactly is art? Today we're going to explore this through the incredible analysis of Alija Izetbegović, who argued that art isn't just some nice decoration, it's something way more fundamental, a spiritual experience that defines two different worlds. Let's get into it. Okay, right off the bat, think about two completely different types of order. On one hand, you've got the order of an engine. It's logical, it's mechanical, it's scientific. You can take it apart, understand every piece, and know exactly how it works. But then you have the order of a melody. That's artistic, it feels spiritual, and it wasn't just found somewhere, it was created. And this leads us to the real heart of the matter. Are the engine and the melody speaking the same basic language? Just, with a different accent? Or are they pointing to two totally separate worlds, two fundamentally different ways of experiencing reality? That's the big question we're going to unpack.
To get to the bottom of this, here's our roadmap. We'll start with these two different worlds, then dig into art's deep religious roots. We'll look at what happens when art loses its soul, explore its unique obsession with humanity, and finally, we'll see why art is all about the act of creation, not the final product.
All right, first up, let's really break down this clash between two worlds. Because even though science and art are looking at the same universe, what they see couldn't be more different.
So, the first huge difference is about discovery versus creation. Science, you see, discovers things that are already out there. An astronomer points a telescope and sees the light from a star that's been traveling for millions of years. But an artist creates. Think about it. Without Beethoven, the Ninth Symphony wouldn't just be hidden somewhere, it would not exist at all.
And that leads us to the next big difference. Science is all about quantity, things you can measure, like mass, distance, and temperature. It deals with matter. Art deals in quality. It's about expressing personality, feeling, spirit. You can't put a number on the joy in a painting or the despair in a poem.
This one's really fascinating. It's the difference between being exact and being truthful. Science has to be exact. 2 + 2 is always 4. End of story. But art is aiming for a deeper kind of truth. A painted portrait might not look exactly like a photograph, but it can capture the truth of a person's soul in a way a photo never could. It's about essence, not just facts.
And really, it all comes down to this. Science depends on the precision of language and math. But art kicks in right where that precision ends. It's for all the things that are too deep, too complex for words. That's when we turn to symbols, to music, to dance, to speak a language the soul can understand.
Okay, so if art speaks this deeper, spiritual language, where in the world did it come from? Well, the argument we're exploring here is that art and religion actually grew from the very same seed.
This quote just nails it. The common ground for both art and religion is this gut feeling, this belief that there's more to life than just the physical stuff we can see and touch. Both are trying to reach for that higher world. And historically, you can see this clear as day. Our great art forms didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Drama, music, paintings, sculpture, they all originally grew right out of the rituals and ceremonies taking place in sacred spaces. They were literally born from acts of worship.
And architecture is maybe the most powerful example. Just look at the greatest buildings in history. That drive to build a home for the divine, whether it's a temple, a mosque, or a cathedral, is what has always pushed architecture to its most breathtaking heights.
But what happens when you try to cut that sacred cord? What happens when art is ripped away from its spiritual roots and forced to serve a purely materialistic ideology? Well, things get pretty dark. And the perfect, if pretty grim, case study for this is something called socialist realism. The concept was brutally simple. Art has one job and one job only: to advance the political goals of the Communist Party. There was zero room for personal expression, for spiritual questions. Art was given its marching orders. And the result? Exactly what you'd expect. When you command art to serve politics, you don't get masterpieces. You get propaganda. You get art that's bland, predictable, and totally uniform. It completely loses its soul.
But here's a really interesting twist. In societies where religion is officially suppressed, that deep human need for transcendence, it doesn't just go away. It finds a new home. And often, that new home is art. It helps explain this almost hysterical interest in novels and concerts and such places. The theater becomes the new church.
All right, let's shift gears now and talk about art's favorite subject. Because while science is busy studying the entire universe, art is almost completely obsessed with just one thing: us, humanity.
But here's the crucial thing. Art isn't interested in us the way social science is. Sociology looks for patterns, for the average person, for data that can be generalized. Art does the exact opposite. It's fascinated by the one, singular, unrepeatable individual, not as a statistic, but as a whole universe in themselves.
And that is why art is so obsessed with the human face. Because a face isn't just a collection of features. It's a drama. It's the visible story of an inner soul fighting for freedom against the pressures of the world. Every great portrait is really a search for that soul.
And this brings us to our final, and maybe the most profound idea of all. We've talked about what art is, but why do it? What is the real point of the whole artistic endeavor?
The core idea here is that the physical object, the painting, the book, isn't actually the main event. The true essence of an artwork is judged by the spiritual intention behind it, not how technically perfect it is. Its value lies in its absolute uniqueness. If you make 1 million copies, you actually destroy what makes it special. The artwork is really just an unfinished symbol of the true miracle, the act of creation itself.
And this quote just says it all perfectly. The goal isn't the thing that hangs on the wall or sits on a shelf. The real purpose, the real reward, is the creative act. That moment of bringing something new and beautiful into the world that without you would have never existed.
So, we'll end on this thought. If we accept this idea that art is a deeply spiritual act, a language that speaks where words fail, a journey that's more important than the destination, if art really is at its core a form of prayer, then it leaves us with one last massive question to chew on. What is it we're praying for?